We should start, though, with Apple. We ended yesterday's episode, Jason and I, sort of opining about Apple's event. Now there's any number of stories out there for those who missed it. I guess the headline is they came out, they unveiled sort of the Apple TV Plus, the arcade gaming, the Apple credit card. We're going to dig into this further on Motley Fool Money this week, but I'm curious, what's your main takeaway from their event?
Yeah, I mean, I think the market in general was pretty underwhelmed, and I can't say that I differ so much, but I didn't necessarily have higher expectations. I think Apple traditionally has been a hardware company, and we're really seeing them try to sort of pivot. So we're at this inflection point for them, and it's either going to be make or break as they start to look at more software. I mean, the good thing for them is that they do have an installed base of an estimated 1.4 billion active devices. So if anyone should be able to do it, they have a pretty good head start. It's just sort of unproven right now.
That's a key word. I mean, because I think there were a lot of things, and I agree with you, by the way, just sort of the reaction from the analysts in general was pretty it's just sort of like the analyst equivalent of a shoulder shrug. But right. I do think that there is a way in which this plays out that suddenly gets analysts on board. If you were playing a drinking game during this event yesterday and you unfortunately drew the card that said, take a drink every time Tim Cook says the word services, you were probably being rushed to the hospital about 30 minutes in because he was really emphasizing the service side. And the thing is that, look, if they can get enough people to subscribe to whether it's the news service that they have, whether it's the TV service, if it starts to meaningfully move the needle on the services revenue, then I think all of a sudden people get converted to believers pretty quickly. Yeah,
I mean, the good news is that services was only about 6.5% of total 2018 earnings or revenues. So it's still relatively small for them. It's just at such high numbers, just the law of large numbers in general works against them. So to move that needle is going to have to be pretty impactful. And I think a lot of analysts were looking for information on pricing and so how those were going to affect both top and bottom lines, and that just wasn't given yesterday.
So I had mentioned on yesterday's episode that the thing I was going to be watching was, are they going to bring out showrunners to talk about we know they're going to spend money on content, but who's going to be producing it? And they brought out arguably two of the biggest names in entertainment in Steven Spielberg and Oprah Winfrey, along with, Reese Witherspoon, Jennifer Aniston, Steve Carell. And I was thinking more about it this morning, and I just thought, and this seems weird to say because you can make a pretty good argument for Steven Spielberg being the most successful film director of the last 40 years, just in terms of commercial success and artistic success. And yet I couldn't help but think that people like Spielberg and Oprah Winfrey are aimed more at my generation and older. And I thought, well, what if instead Apple had struck a deal with someone like Jordan Peele, a younger writer-director who
on the rise,
who is one of those people who is a fan of movies and is not curious about what is his next movie going to be in the wake of, last year with Get Out and, just recently this new movie, Us. So I don't know. I mean, it's not to say it can't work, but for all of the attention that Spielberg and Oprah Winfrey got, I felt like it wouldn't surprise me if that ends up being sort of the weakest link of what they unveiled yesterday, and the credit card actually ends up moving the needle.
I think the credit card has the most potential, but again, I almost think that's probably one of the most difficult competitive landscapes that they're trying to break into. And they did launch Apple Pay in 2014. I think, they've had success there, but it's still sort of a trickle in. I don't know if it's as fast as everyone was anticipating it would be. And I think Tim Cook gave the targets that he was looking for 70% of U.S. retailers and in 40 countries by the end of the year. So again, large numbers, not necessarily humongous. I just think it's going to be more challenging.
Right. And I think the fact that Apple said, oh, and by the way, we're also going to produce a physical credit card, I think that speaks to your point that it's like, oh yeah, because if Apple Pay were truly ubiquitous, they wouldn't
we
need
wouldn't
to do
need that. Yeah.